As Union forces began Lee regrouped his army at a small underground crossroads town called Gettysburg and collided there with the Confederates on July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in a bloodbath that doomed the South's quest for independence. But what if Lee had reached the bridge and continued his march east across Lancaster County?
You guys all together?
Separate.
Quick photo, quick?
Right here in the countryside between Strasburg, Paradise, and Leonard Place. To see for ourselves. To see for ourselves what that would look like, our train ride today is taking us back in time to the very spots where the armies might have clashed. We'll see in Confederate Day, Jubal Early's 24th Virginia Infantry Regiment, and in Union Blue, under Lancaster's own John Reynolds, the 16th Union. The 142nd Pennsylvania, and
there they are.
Come back this way. Keep your eyes peeled and you'll guide. What you're watching was, in the summer of 1863, no less than the fate of a whole continent in the balance. The Confederate battle line, dressing on their colors the Southern Cross battle flag as they approach from the west. They're the vanguard of General Robert E. Lee's 75,000-man Army of Northern Virginia. The blue-coat Union Federal soldiers that we see in their falling back skirmish line, they are a small vanguard of General George Meade from Pennsylvania and his Union Army of the Potomac. They numbered 90,000, outnumbering the rebels by 15,000. But neither one of those armies is here yet, and neither army particularly knows where the rest of them are. For our younger guests on the train today who may be confused about what it is they're seeing out the train windows,
They're so cute.
No one is actually firing real bullets at each other. It's only a reenactment of events that might have been in the summer of 1863. They're firing only gunpowder blanks at each other. But during the actual events, they would have been firing at each other 58 caliber bare lead mini balls. They were conical shaped bare lead soft bullets that made a nice hole going into a man, but made a horrific hole coming out. Battle injuries during our war between the states were no less than nightmarish.
Wow.
So dramatic. Yeah, and you'll be like, when someone acts like they should be, you'll be like,
For safety's sake, I and the crew would like to request strenuously to all guests that you remain inside your car. Please do not step out on the end platforms. Please remain inside your car and view the battle action through the side windows. Please do not stand on the end platforms for safety. When the train begins to start moving again, that will be most unsafe to be outside of your car. Thank you for your kind attention.
I would just go that I hope they don't scare the horse.
No, I think the horses are very easy.
What?
In modern times, the technology of war has often outpaced the tactics of battles. What you're witnessing now is a tragic example of that phenomenon. The shoulder-to-shoulder, close-order battle tactics we're witnessing now were developed 50 years before the American Civil War. They were developed during the days of the Emperor Napoleon in the dawn of the 1800s. In those days, muskets were smooth bore, and the bullets were round balls that were inaccurate and short-range weapons. In the intervening decades between 1805 and the Battle of Austerlitz, we where these shoulder-to-shoulder tactics worked with tremendous efficiency in the days of Napoleon, 50 years had passed in new long arms technology by the events we're witnessing now in 1863. That volley fire you just heard was fired by rifle muskets with conical, groove-fitting, spinning balls that come out of the muzzle of the musket at extremely fast velocity, spinning with deadly accuracy at long range. This kind of close order fighting was, for want of a better term, a meat grinder. It would only be late in the American Civil War, in 1864 and 1865, when battle tactics caught up with the new deadliness of the latest generation of muskets. That's when the modern way of open order fighting, where you would never think of standing shoulder to shoulder with the man next to you, that's when those open order, leave a space between you and the next man tactics were developed. Only late in the American Civil War, but not yet in 1863. Please ignore, out the running left side of the train, that strange contraption which does not appear to have any horse or mule team leading the way. I have no idea what that is, but it might be a good idea to invest in, if you can, in whoever invented that thing. For those of us seated in the west end of our train, closer to East Strasburg Station where we first departed, you can see now that the action has passed by as the rebel battle line has pushed the Federal skirmishers farther east. Those guests in the east end of our train today can see that the tide of battle currently is going in the favor of the Confederate States of America, so-called. If that surprises anyone, don't be surprised, because the Confederates here had the advantage. They moved into this area first. This morning, coming down the roads, streaming from the bridge on the Susquehanna, that they did, in our water scenario, capture intact. And it's the Federals that are playing catch-up, trying to intercede and get between them and their objective in Philadelphia. The Confederates in the summer of 1863 were riding a high crest of a wave of victories. In fact, General Lee has developed around him and his army something of a mystique of invincibility. It's the rebels' hope that they can ride this wave all the way to total victory and independence if they can bring the stubborn Lincoln administration to the peace table with a crushing victory. And what would be better than capturing the birthplace of American independence, Philadelphia itself? And with Philadelphia in rebel hands, the road would be open to assault Washington City from the rear. With the growing peace movement here in Pennsylvania and elsewhere across the North, it was Lee's gamble that with a big enough victory, public opinion would turn against the Lincoln administration and force him to sue for peace on the only terms the Confederacy would accept, and that was total independence in the old spirit of 1776. Time being, the most heated action seems to have subsided. However, this is only the end of the beginning. Reports of the president's whereabouts in our area. So put that right out of your mind. There's nothing to see here.
Yep. Good day, Mr. President.
How do you do?
Good, sir. Wow. Holy cow.
I sure hope that other rubber boat out there isn't in rebel hands by now. It does appear to be paralleling our movement farther south. side, and it seemed never to end. I would encourage all of you, if you've never read it before, to read President Lincoln's second inaugural address when he was sworn in for his second term in March of 1865, as he rendered aloud. As we begin our journey, let's talk a little about where we're going and what we'll see. Wars are always fought in somebody's backyard. For most of our war between the states, that meant the South. For most of the American Civil War, the fighting was in the South. Summer of 1863, when Lee's Confederate Army of Northern Virginia poured into Pennsylvania from behind the screen of the Blue Ridge Mountains, it was our turn to bear the brunt of the fighting, right here in the breadbasket of the North. The war had raged for 2 years already. It wasn't supposed to last nearly that long. But superheated by decades of sectional hatred and finger pointing, what began as a family feud over slavery and the Union quickly flared up into a true epic calamity with a terrible life of its own. To end it once and for all, Lee's army fanned out across 4 counties, streaming east along every dirt road they could find. Their goal was to capture Harrisburg, Philadelphia, or best of all, Washington City itself. They foraged as they went. Foraged for food, clothing, shoes, horses, firewood, and even silver and gold, if it hadn't already been hidden. They held whole towns like York and Mechanicsburg for ransom. Local civilians in their wagons and carriages, burdened with valuables, fled ahead of the dusty gray columns of ongoing rebels. Meanwhile, Meade's Union Army of the Potomac was tramping north at the Double Creek, spread thin across northern Virginia and western Maryland, searching frantically were the most prized possessions of all, the trains, the local folks' engine of escape, and the invaders' road to victory. But on that road lay the crucial covered bridge across the Susquehanna River at Wrightsville and Columbia. If the locals could disable the bridge before Lee's vanguard reached it, the mile-wide river would force the Confederates to abandon across Lancaster County. In that case, he might have been intercepted right here in the countryside between Strasburg, Paradise, and Lemon Place. To see for ourselves what that would have looked like, our train ride today is taking us back in time to the very spots where the armies might have clashed. See in Confederate gray, Jubal Early's 24th Virginia Infantry Regiment. And in Union blue, under Lancaster's own John Reynolds, the 16th Maine, the 142nd Pennsylvania, and the 6th New York. being sighted on our train. On behalf of the anchor team detective agency, allow me to assure you, in the interests of the security and the future of the Union, that there is no base to those groundless rumors about President Lincoln being among us on our train today. You might be thinking, this doesn't look like a battlefield at all. But there you would be mistaken if you think this farmland doesn't look anything like a battlefield. Because this, I assure you, is what battlefields exactly look like before they become battlefields. If you've ever visited that not too far away National Historical Military Park in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, you may recall that in Gettysburg, the battlefield today is manicured lawns, beautifully maintained marble statues or monuments. But I assure you, before the fighting that immortalized the name of Gettysburg, the Gettysburg area looked just like this. Our tracks are now coming alongside the main line of what in 1863 would have been the Pennsylvania Railroad, or what we in this area call the Mighty Pensy. In military terms, for a force like General Lee's Confederates, this juncture is of crucial significance, which explains the presence of our Union boys right where the tracks come together, so to speak. The locomotives, as a safety precaution, always ring the bell when they are moving in a railroad. Which means we hope that as they pass us on what was our running left, they'll be able to, without misadventure, couple up on the rear end of our train to safely take us back to East Strasburg through an area that any moment now may erupt into gunfire. Again, a reminder to all our guests on the Amtrak side of our train, especially those in coach and open air. Please keep all of your heads and arms inside the windows and remain inside your car, because the Amtrak high-speed line is only inches away from some of your windows. especially in open air. But also, both armies rapidly becoming aware of how close they were to each other. Both looked for some local town nearby where there were many roads all converging so that it would make it easier for the armies north and south to concentrate their forces to be able to repel the enemy more effectively.
Uh-oh.
And I think from that rifle volley, we know that something is afoot. No wonder. If you look out your windows on the side of the train away from Amtrak, you may notice that our Union detachment is quite serious about making sure this vital spot, where not dirt roads but railroads come together, does not fall into rebel hands.
Like a monster on Mama. No.
Can you see it? Do you want to see?
No.
For the youngsters among us, these soldiers are only reenactors pretending to fight the way it might really have happened back in 1863. They're firing only blank gunpowder cartridges at each other. But for real, bring drugs at each other. For those of you unfamiliar with firearms, a .58 caliber bullet is a really big piece of lead. They made a small hole going in and a very big one coming out. And those soft lead bullets account for much of the horror of the war. Again, for safety's sake, we do ask all of our passengers to remain inside your car on the train and not step out onto any of the end platforms.
that side. I got her.
The unusually loud blasts that we're hearing occasionally is not cannon fire. That is volley fire by rifle muskets, meaning a whole company of foot soldiers firing in unison.
There we go.
You may have noticed that some of the rebels, parts of their uniforms may appear suspiciously blue. That's because rebel forces throughout the war, and certainly after 2 years of fighting, were constantly scrounging for equipment, including uniforms, from whatever sources they could. And oftentimes, those sources were captured Union Army supply wagons. So it was not at all unusual for Confederate troops to have, as part of their uniforms, bits and pieces, a forage cap here, a waistcoat there, a pair of kersey light-blue trousers that were liberated, shall we say, from a Union supply train. Car, please look as poor as you can.
There's no internet.
Go right down to Harper's Ferry.
Hope you all have a safe trip going down here.
Now, unlike the infamous depredations of other armies in other wars, you may be familiar that despite being the arch rebel, General Robert E. Lee has a reputation, I'm told well earned, for being something of a Southern gentleman. And I've read in the local papers that his soldiers have been strictly free a paying venture, because they will, of course, be paying in Confederate paper money. Let's just say the exchange rate in that medium is not particularly good. Although,
What's in the basket, miss?
all kidding aside, the value of the Confederate dollar and the value of the United States dollar did fluctuate wildly at times, up and down during hostilities between 1861 and 1865. It all depended on who was winning at that moment. And at this moment, things are not looking good for the Union cause.
My flashlight on. Sorry.
Oh, she'll take your picture too, but you have a better view.
Oh, well, that light's on. Don't worry.
I can't take it with your phone, unfortunately.
And you might notice that at least on Long Curve, at this moment, the train is heading south. Virginia Infantry Regiment. And in Union Blue, under Lancaster's own John Reynolds, the 16th Maine, the 142nd Pennsylvania, and the 6th New York. Here we go. And keep your eyes peeled. To observe this.
Okay, thank you.
But to my 19th century eyes, a most well-clad woolen era, the folks patronizing this park seems to be scandalous. Park seem to be scandalously ill-clad. In fact, I dare say, from my vantage point in 1863, they all appear to be in their undergarments. This, folks, is not the Lancaster County I'm familiar with. You may have heard some rumors that our president, the Right Honorable...
What? I didn't see it. You just heard it. All I did was turn my head and turn it down and hit that, and you were here. Going up all. One part of the bricks ran. One part of the river. On the other side of the river, what's happening?
Yeah, that's what
Go back.
Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
A word to our guests on board the train. We do strongly urge everyone to remain inside their car and resist the temptation to step out onto the end platforms for a better view. Please remain in your car. Of course, our reenactors today are firing only gunpowder blanks. But in the fictional, but all too believable scenario we imagine today, in 1863, these infantrymen would have been firing very real 58 caliber lead slugs at each other. For those of you unfamiliar with firearms, let's just say that is a really big bullet. Those lead bullets were one of the largest killers in the war between the states. And they were always fired out of a rifled musket like these soldiers are firing now. Sometimes those bullets were used by the artillery, packed in sawdust inside oversized what amounted to tin coffee cans and fired at close range into infantry formations from cannons. That canister fire, canister shot, was another brutal killer in the war between the states. Those bullets made a small hole going in, but without being too graphic, let's just say they made a very large hole coming out. The extremely loud explosions that we're hearing are not, as you might imagine, artillery, but rather volley fire from foot soldiers, all firing their rifled muskets in unison on command.
Wow.
The civilians who have managed to get themselves trapped between the lines, that was a pattern that repeated itself over and over throughout the war.
Uh-oh.
As the gunpowder smoke from this skirmish thickens and swirls around the train, even on a bright sunny day, you can see
they're
how
retreating.
so often Civil War battles were fought half blind just because of the smoke. Especially at long range, when cannon fire came into play, it was often nearly impossible through the smoke to see what effect your fire was having on the enemy. In 1863, horsepower was largely just that, real horses. When the Confederates moved through Pennsylvania, they stole every horse they could find. And in those days, everyone knew how to ride. So it was a very easy bit of military supplies to carry off. You simply let bareback onto the animal and let it carry itself away.
Get him, guys.
Battlefield tactics in 1863 were really not all that different than they still are in your 21st century. Frontal assaults were to be avoided possibly when fighting in close quarters, as here at Groff's Grove. That was not always possible. But if you could, the objective was to flank or get around the ends of the enemy line to attack them on the side or in the rear. In other words, in whichever direction they weren't pointing their weapons.
Whoa!
While your side is trying to outmaneuver theirs, they are trying to do the same thing to you, which explains why battles oftentimes have a swirling movement to them, as fighting units keep maneuvering, positioning, repositioning themselves to make the most of terrain. One of the reasons battle losses were so huge during the war between the states was the virtual non-existence of modern medicine. Battle wounds to the photographers. If you have your photograph taken by one of our photographers here on this 4 o'clock train, we would encourage you, as soon as we return, to make your way to lamppost 5, across from which is our photographic studio, where you can view digitally, whatever that means, carriages burdened with valuables fled ahead of the dusty gray columns of oncoming rebels. Meanwhile, Meade's Union Army of the Potomac was tramping north at the double quick, spread thin across northern Virginia and western Maryland, searching frantically for Lee to intercept him before it was too late. And right in the very thick of the panic, in the north, he and his army had acquired in some circles a mystique of near invincibility. In 1863, the Confederates proudly wore the nickname Rebel because they remembered that the last Americans to be called Rebel fought under a Southerner by the name of, maybe you've heard of him, George Washington. So for the Confederates to capture Philadelphia would seem to prove that their cause of independence was in fact as righteous as they said it was. Besides, capturing Philadelphia would position Lee's Confederate Army in the rear of the defensive fronts bringing Washington City on the Potomac. It was just the sort of victory that might turn northern public opinion, which was waffling in 1863 anyway, to pressure the Lincoln administration to sue for peace with the Confederacy. Because battle losses in 1861, 2, and 3 had already reached unbelievable limits. They're not just beautiful, they are frightening and full of potential surprises. Because as the land rolls, it may very well hide behind the next ridge, an enemy you can't see until they're practically upon you.
We're with the president.
Folks, if you've been desperately trying to find where the battle is during our ride today, well, your search is at an end because it seems that the battle has found us.
No worse than I do.
That's right.
It's always debating a shot.
Wow. In the middle of our train, we have been boarded by a company of Union soldiers.
Hey, we got enough room? Yeah. We'll just play the standing game.
Where's Colby? Just giving some room.
Being dressed in blue myself, it is comforting to know that our train is currently in the able and armed hands of the lead elements of the Union Army of the Potomac. Safe, because after all, the train now is a moving target again. And certainly the rebels can't hit a moving target. Well, I for one am not too sure about that. Because as to the rebels' accuracy of aim, they are, after all, here in the north. That should tell you something. Back in the days of Emperor Napoleon I, battle tactics back when muskets were still smooth bore, firing round lead balls that were very inaccurate and tumbled when they flew. Battle tactics were still in use in 1863 that required foot soldiers to stand in neat lines shoulder to shoulder and only less than 100 yards apart, so that with those old smoothbore inaccurate short-range weapons they could deliver an effective volume of fire. But the soldiers are effective to long range, but they're still fighting shoulder to shoulder. It was only during the war between the states that soldiers blue and gray and their officers learned from
Get the skirmishers down here! Skirmishers, let's go!
safe gaps between individual infantry.
Make sure to get the main company formed up here. Get the main company set up here. The skirmishers are going to go
While
pull
our
their pickets.
reenactors today are firing only gunpowder blanks, the men they're impersonating in the summer of 1863 would have been firing 58 caliber unjacketed lead bullets.
Come on! And then once they open it up, right here.
Suffice it to say that is a really big bullet. It makes a neat hole going into a man, but it makes a horrific hole coming out.
Forward at the left oblique. Forward. Don't get too far ahead.
please ignore that unidentified flying object that seems to be hovering magically over that Confederate artillery piece. I don't know what that UFO, dare I call it that? I don't know what it is, but I sure hope it's one of ours. A well-trained soldier, north or south, could fire 3 aimed shots with deadly accuracy per minute. The deadly combination of new weaponry and old battle tactics largely accounts for the almost unbelievable losses in the American Civil War on both sides. More soldiers were killed north and south in the American Civil War than just about every other American war before and since combined. That's from Bunker Hill all the way to Afghanistan. That Confederate cannon up on the rise near their camp seems to be out of commission. We should be very grateful for that. Cannon, back in those days, fired much more than cannonballs, or what they called solid shot. Solid shot was usually used against fortifications, especially stone and brick. They could be cannonballs, they could be and were used with great effectiveness against masses of infantry. But perhaps the deadliest kind of artillery was the kind that fired at close range against infantry formations like the ones we're watching. What was called canister. Canister was basically an overgrown tin coffee can packed with musket balls packed together in sawdust to help them spread out when the cannon was fired, acting like a giant shotgun. You might notice near that Virginia regimental banner, near the center of the rebel camp, there appears to be an ammunition wagon right next to that flag. If you're familiar at all with 1863 battle tactics, you know that where there's an ammunition wagon like that, there probably is an artillery piece not too far away. Yet the one disabled up on the hill with the rammer apparently still down the barrel does not, oh my, look at what's under that tarpaulin. That is a Gatling gun. For the historians amongst us, you might be thinking, but how could the rebels have a Gatling gun? Mr. Gatling himself was from Indianapolis, Indiana. And what few Gatling guns did see action during the Civil War, they were manufactured in Indianapolis and Cincinnati.
I can't believe you guys are laughing at this.
Ever have gotten one of those guns? Well, that's simple. They got it the way they managed to get many of the other supplies. When Union forces were in their area, they simply captured their supply wagons. In fact, feared for a moment that they had gotten the worst of that rapid-fire weapon. I seem to have been mistaken, and I have never been more glad to be wrong. That little pop, pop, pop you hear coming from some of the Confederates, those are our reenactors practicing safety first. What they're doing is they're placing a percussion cap at the breech of their weapons to double check and make sure that they don't, by accident, still have an unexploded charge of gunpowder down their barrels. They do this at the end of every battle scenario to make sure that as they carry their weapons off the battlefield, no one is at risk of accidentally discharging their weapon. So if you were wondering why pop, pop, pop and not the kaboom that you heard when they were firing powder earlier, what you heard simply was their percussion caps going off. That's what actually ignites the charge if there is in fact one still down the barrel.
There won't be any copy in a little bit.
And now the Union reenactors are doing the same with their muskets. There are documented cases of soldiers both north and south who, in the deafening noise of battle, if you've ever wondered what the rebel yell sounded like, that was it. So there are actual cases where after Civil War battles, weapons were recovered off the field that had 3, 4, and 5 or more rounds rammed down the barrel. But in the deafening noise of battle, that particular soldier never realized that his weapon had misfired. So he kept in a panic, loading over and over again.